I don't know, what do you guys think? Maybe I should put a couple more spikes? Or maybe we should have different spikes. That's not a bad idea. Like, maybe spikes down here? So, like, just so the player knows. Maybe a couple more here. Yeah, we need spikes up here, too. In fact, hang on. You know what we really need? Let's get some Mega Man 1 gloves. Oh, God! Thank you, Diesel Games. Fear. So I'm thinking, like, we need to give the player a way to get over these spikes, right? I mean, that's just logical. But then, sudden twist, we'll have spikes on the platforms that they're supposed to use to get around. In fact, we'll just have spikes around the platforms. In fact, I can just put spikes everywhere, can't I? Welcome to Loreweek, ladies and gentlemen. I actually wasn't going to be doing a Loreweek this week, to be completely honest with you. But pretty much at the last minute, I was convinced to do so because of 3 very minor news points. So this is probably going to be an extremely short Loreweek. This is mostly going to be a trailer analysis. So, first thing I want to cover, because it's the most minor thing of all, is the fact that they're going to be announcing the new Doctor sometime within the next X period of time. Wimbledon, for those of you watching this from historical perspective, like tomorrow or Tuesday or whatever, Wimbledon is going on right now. And when Wimbledon is over, by all accounts, they're going to announce the 13th, depending how you define that, Doctor. We've known this for a while. We know Capaldi is leaving. I'm debating if I want to discuss a topic here. What do you guys think? Should I go ahead and just shove my foot into politics for this one? Should I just do it and say screw it? By the way, hi Trolley. Of course, there's nobody actually watching right now. That's a weird song. Okay, I'm gonna switch playlists. Hey, people label me all the time, and they're welcome to. If people are sufficiently stupid as to have to slap a label on me to understand me, well, that's their problem, not mine. No, it does not, Zetzler. Here's the issue, guys. I actually like the idea of a female Doctor. It makes a degree of sense. We've actually seen Time Lords switch genders before. In fact, we've seen Time Lords switch genders before relatively recently, so that's not a big deal. The problem is, it's become an issue. It is turned into a political issue, and it really shouldn't be. This is one of the things that actually irritates me, personally. Because I could just picture this. Just hear me out. There's this dude who's like, hey, you know what'd be cool? There's this one actress, and I think she's a really good actress, and I think she would be an excellent next Doctor. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. We'll have to debate our options and see what we can do. Now let's assume for a moment, yes, exact same problem, Darkrai. Now let's assume that word of that idea gets out, and people are like, oh my god, they're gonna have a female Doctor. Now, there will be people who will be well-reasoned and adjusted and have brains about this issue, who will look at it and be like, okay, whatever, and they'll have their own individual opinions, whatever those opinions happen to be. But then you will have 2 screaming, loud people. I don't know if they're in the majority or the minority, but they are definitely the loudest on both sides of the issue. One will be screaming that you can't do that, either because they are sexist, or because they think it would be bowing to the alternative, or, you know, for whatever reason. And the one side will be saying, you have to do this now. It is owed to have a female Doctor. It is the only correct thing to do to fight against the tyranny of... and so forth and so on. If you're paying attention, both extremes are actually basically the same side, really, because they're just both ranting and raging without having any real points to them. They're just screaming. And so yeah, that's exactly what I want to talk about, forced diversity. I've actually talked about this before. When I sit down and write characters, I usually write the outline of the character first. Motives is almost always what I start with, motivation. And by the way, I just have to say, some of this goes back to, I want to give a shout-outs to one of my teachers all the way back in high school. I actually don't remember his name, but I remember his face perfectly. He had this great beard. Anyways, I remember him, and I remember her, too, because he was good friends with one of the art teachers who I was also with. And the two of them got together for this one wonderful session of a class called Creative Writing. Creative Writing class, we were sitting there and they were like, don't ever force it. Don't ever do it just for the sake of itself. Have it mean something. And I've never really let go of that idea. So, getting back to my original point, you write down a character, then you write down things like race and gender. Now, the relevance here is that their gender does matter. The fact that Janeway is female matters. The fact that Sisko is black matters. But it's not there just for its own sake, is it? They didn't pick, I actually can't think of the actor's name all of a sudden, oh my god, the guy who plays Sisko, just because he was a black captain, just to fill some quota, did they? No, they picked him because he was an awesome actor and because he was trying to get more into television work, which he later regretted, but that's off topic. They didn't get Kate Mulgrew because she was a woman, did they? No, they got Kate Mulgrew because she was an amazing theatrical actress and was willing to put forth the presence that they wanted from someone who was going to be... Avery Brooks, thank you. From a position of power, which is exactly what they wanted. Now, there were some gender politics behind the Janeway thing, but that was mostly on Jerry Taylor. Let's just leave that to the side. The point is, it doesn't actually matter if they're black or Asian or any race or any gender. It doesn't matter, as long as they're good at it. So you know what? It's the exact same issue, and I brought this up before with regards to Link back in Breath of the Wild. Do you remember that? I thought it would be cool if we could actually pick our gender, but it wasn't a big deal if we couldn't. It just would have been neat. I feel the same general thing about the Doctor here. If we get a female Doctor, okay. If we get a female Doctor who's a great actress, awesome. If we get a male Doctor who's a great actor, awesome. Because that's the point I actually care about. And to be as blunt as I can, and this is probably the closest thing I'm going to get to actually preaching on my show, that is what should matter, is the performance and the presentation and the acting. Not their gender. It irritates me, and this is not unique to gender, it's just that happens to be the latest hot button topic in the internet society right now. It's always been something. You know, as far back as I can remember anyways, it's always been something. There's always been something that people like to rally around in order to be like, hey! You know, we have this term nowadays we call SJWs, which has become an insult. But that concept of what we now refer to as SJWs goes back decades, if not centuries. This is nothing new. So it just happens to be that this gender is, and the whole gender dimorphic thing, is one of the things that happens to be the issue right now. And in a few years, it'll be something else, just like it always is. So I hope we get a good 13th Doctor. I really do. I think that'd be awesome. If I may be so bold, I actually thought Peter Capaldi, I can't say his name right, was actually a really good Doctor. Didn't care for some of the writing, and I felt like they went with a weird direction with some of it, but I think he was a great Doctor, and I think it'd be awesome if we have a new Doctor, who is also great. I mean, and that's actually all I have to say about that. Now, it'd be funny if Wimbledon just ended. Quick, someone go check. I'm not actually watching it right now. Gary might be. I don't know. I haven't actually watched tennis since, I can't think of his name. There was this great tennis player, like, about 8 years ago, and I used to watch him quite a bit. Volcanto, as I said earlier, if those people are so stupid as to have to label me in order to understand me, that's on them. Next point. This is a very minor point, but I wanted to bring it up because, I mean, I almost have nothing to talk about anyways. This Loreweek. So, this is about World of Warcraft, and I'm sure some of you don't care, and that's cool, so you can tune out for just a couple of minutes. I'm just going to touch on this briefly. For those of you not aware, 7.3, I think? I don't actually know what. It's already on the PTR. Now, to be clear, I am not discussing spoilers from that. I have actually been able to avoid quite a few of the spoilers from that. I have already had a few things spoiled for me, and that's partially my fault and partially not. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is one little thing, one little picture that I meant to get set up here, and then I ended up making a Spike's Mega Man stage instead, because I'm a moron. Hang on just a second. It's okay, I do actually have the picture, I just need to find it really quick. I have many pictures for this show. I've literally got a folder that's just pictures for show. And I just dump them all in there. Occasionally I clean it out. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Seriously. Technical difficulties. Up there it is. Found it. Okay. See this? This is the only thing I really want to talk about that has been... God damn it. Come on. Data mined from the thing. So you might look at this and be like, well, what's the significance of this? Well, there are three things significant about this. First of all, this file name is, and I quote, 73_cooltiras_01.jpg. That is the actual file name from Blizzard's own files. So, obviously, that's significant. Because, for those of you not aware, Cool Tiras has not been in Warcraft, like, at all, since Warcraft 2, really. I mean, we had Admiral Proudmoore in Warcraft 3, but that's kind of it. Next point, there's a map he's got going on in his sleeves, his waist there. Now, I'm not going to show you the blown-up version of it, but all you need to know is that it is basically a map of the Eastern Kingdoms that's kind of been stitched onto there. Next point, there are visible tentacle-looking things and barnacles at the base of the cloak. And the final thing, and this is of course the most important point, this was data mined from the latest patch. Now, Blizzard knows we data mine. They know that. They've known that for like a decade at this point. They have actively done things to leak or release or tease info through data mining before. This is nothing new. So there really are only two options, because everything else, all the leaks, all the supposed expansion info, all that crap you read on Reddit, all of that you need to take with like 20 grains of salt. But this is straight from the game files. So there's only two possibilities for this. Either this is them teasing about what's coming up, or this is them messing with us. Thing is, though, it's not common that the Blizzard WoW department does something like this just to troll us. I know that sounds weird, but what I mean by that is usually they don't go to this level of effort unless there's something else involved, like a more extensive joke or whatever. So there's actually a pretty good chance that in some way or another, whether this is a new expansion or this is part of a patch or whatever, Cool Tiras will finally be involved within World of Warcraft. But the significance of all of the little details makes me think that this probably is actually legit. So, we'll see, I suppose. We'll see. Oh, one other thing I wanted to showcase, and I can kind of zoom it up a lot. Yeah. So, this is not exactly the highest def ever as far as graphics, and that's kind of significant as well, in my opinion. You see that texturing right there here, right in the middle of the screen, on the map? That's not as good as they can, and indeed have done, with textures of current level stuff. So, there is a third possibility here, and I feel like mentioning it. This could be old data. This could be old stuff that just got cycled in. Because this doesn't look like modern graphics level here. Again, we've seen modern textures, and they're actually quite nice. I suppose we'll find out at some point in the future. Next point. How many of you are excited about Infinity War? It's going to be a super short Loreweek, guys. I really have very little to talk about. So, really, Darkrai? That's funny. Now, unfortunately, I was really hoping for an actual video to show you, but it looks like it hasn't actually come out or been leaked, or however you want to think of that. But there are write-ups about it, which I'm going to actually read to you right now. They've shown the first actual footage of Infinity War. To It's a 2-minute video, or excuse me, it's like a 4-minute video, my bad. Starts off with some shots of the previous movies, though we've already had each one showcasing one of the existing Infinity Stones. Star-Lord and the Guardians find Thor out in space, drag him on board. They find a planet which is just absolutely wrecked, and something's up with that. There's a few cuts, there's a few usual editing trick cuts. Scarlet Witch is moving cars around. Loki gives the Tesseract to someone, we don't actually know who. Peter Parker sees a ship flying towards them. Tony Stark mentions, and I quote, "We have one advantage. He's coming to us." As the ship crashes, we see Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Iron Man, Star-Lord, Doctor Strange, all looking at it like, oh my god. And so then Thanos finally reveals himself. Doctor Strange throws down platforms. Star-Lord jumps off of him to shoot at him. Spider-Man is wearing a suit. I just realized I can't spoil that. Jumping after them. Vision is locked up. There's a Wakandan army that includes Bucky. Captain America has a full beard and is coming out of hiding. Black Widow has blonde hair. Iron Man has new armor. Someone's using the Hulkbuster armor. And then Thanos lights up 2 of the stones on the Infinity Gauntlet, grabs a nearby moon. Darkrai, dude. Grabs a nearby moon and starts dragging it down towards the planet they're on, and then cut to title card. Now, all of this is kind of cool sounding, but the real reason I'm actually bringing this up is right there, Avengers Infinity War, May 4th next year. We actually have a release date for the first Infinity War. Next May. Now, what I find funny about this is we don't even have a release date for Kingdom Hearts 3. But we have a release date for Infinity War. The second layer of irony there is the fact that we were all, you know, I shouldn't say we all, several people were hoping for a release date from Kingdom Hearts 3 yesterday, which we didn't get. And then we get one from there. Apparently we already had this release date. That's news to me. Anyways, May 4th next year. Woo! And that's actually it. I told you, I wasn't even going to do a lore week this week, if not for the fact that I had a couple last-minute things. So, I actually already did this last night, but I want to do this live and on camera. So we're going to cut the music and move this forward. And then we're going to close this. Hey, we're back. We're in space! And then we're going to pull this up. So, if you want to watch the whole thing on your own, you can do that on your own time. We're not going to go through the whole thing. In fact, we're probably going to go ahead and just mute this just to be safe. Why don't we have a backup option instead of playing this, you know, the actual music from the thing? Oh, come on, where is it? Oh, right, I removed it. Duh. So anywho, I've actually, like I said, I've already kind of done this, so forgive me. Here, we'll just pull up a good song here. There we go, that's a good one. Not that I'm aware, Chemic. So first thing we notice is this. Now, one of the things that Dream Drop Distance did very well was it gave you a large sense of scope and scale. If you went through Kingdom Hearts 2, you might be forgiven for thinking that the world that never was is actually this tiny, dinky little place. Because, you know, you didn't really see that. Like, you'd go one screen forward, there would be a brief loading screen, and then you'd be like 5 miles ahead of where you just were, right? Now, that was because of the limitations of the hardware of the PS2 era, but the point is, a lot of places felt really small in Kingdom Hearts 2. Dream Drop Distance got rid of that on the 3DS, ironically, where lots of places were big and open and huge. So I feel like this is exactly what we're getting again here. I mean, this is Olympus area, and you can just see the scope of this area, and it actually feels, for the second time in the series, actually large, and actually like we're getting an idea of how huge these worlds are, rather than being tiny little sections of plays. You know, it feels like we're finally leaving the SNES RPG status that Kingdom Hearts has had for, well, since the original Kingdom Hearts. So that's cool. Obviously, we're sliding on this grind rail thing, which has been described as either Sonic-y or Ratchet and Clanky, but either way, you notice we actually have completely new moves here. Blaster, Super Slide, and Jump. You can see them in the lower left there. And we'll be killing all sorts of enemies, which I'll just show this really quick here. This looks a lot like the shot lock mechanic here from Birth by Sleep. And of course, we've got this jumping little thing here, which looks like a new attempt to try and do the system, I can't remember the name of it, from Dream Drop Distance, the flow motion thing, where we can just bzz, bzz. Looks a little more scripted, but it still looks cool, so I'm willing to at least forgive that. I do want to pause like right here for just a second, just to re-emphasize my point, because you can really see quite a ways down there to other areas which we came up from, which again helps to emphasize that size thing I mentioned earlier. Yeah, it kind of does, Max Time, I agree. Hey, Ginger Ninja. So now this scene is kind of significant. First of all, obviously they're fighting in front of one version or another of the Twilight Town mansion. Duh. There's two things that's significant about this. First of all, we don't actually know which Twilight Town this is. There are, in fact, two, and last I checked, there are still two. The possibilities for this being the Data Twilight Town are actually pretty high, I'd say, at this point. But here's the other thing that I find interesting. So he's fighting Neo Shadows and Dusks. At first glance, when I was looking through this, because of the way they're moving and interacting with each other, I thought they were actually attacking each other. But it turns out, if you watch the back left here... Sorry, give me a moment. Boop. Okay. You see in the back, like, leftish there? I assumed it was the Heartless and Nobodies fighting each other. That's actually Goofy. You can see him right there. And right there. He just hit them again. You see Goofy right there? So that's actually what's going on in the background. The reason this is somewhat significant, at least somewhat, is, unless I'm mistaken, this is actually the first time we've seen Heartless and Nobody grunts fighting side by side. Well, we've known the organization, the original organization, the first organization, could control both Heartless and Nobodies. We never really saw them utilize them simultaneously. It was always summon I mean, I can give you a direct example. Saïx summons the Nobodies, defeats Maleficent's Heartless, gets rid of the Nobodies, and then summons the Heartless. They were always segregate. I don't know if the fact that they're together is significant, or this is just a hardware thing. Moving on. So then we see some of the double arrow guns. This is just cool. I mean, I'm just going to let this play. This is actually just kind of cool here. As usual, we're bringing back this type of gameplay from previous Kingdom Hearts, like the Magic Launcher, which is literally a rocket launcher, which is cool. Next thing I want to point out here is, of course, Greece, the other, I guess this would be the third part of the Olympus world that we've seen so far. We've seen the Olympus part itself with the clouds and the mountains. We shot that earlier. In previous things, we've seen the mountain where we're going to fight the Rock Titan. And here, of course, we see the Greece town itself. Probably Athens, if I were to guess on the matter. I'm not actually sure. Either way, Athens is on fire. As you can see in the background there, a lot of, if I just move this forward just a little bit here, you can see in the background a lot of the pillars have literally been destroyed, some of them knocked over. The sky is all dark and gray, which when it comes to narrative law, when it comes to directing style, that universally means, oh god, it's all screwed. Yeah, it could be thieves, I could admit that. So, obviously this place is under attack by something significant enough to really wreck it. Also, let me rewind just a sec here. Hey, Pico. So, this is pretty much the closest thing we've ever had to an Iron Giant in the Kingdom Hearts series. For those of you not aware, the Iron Giants are recurring enemies that actually go back all the way to FF1, believe it or not, in some form or another. And they kind of became recurring enemies somewhere along the line. Hi, Cool Walker. And I like the fact that we're finally seeing something of an iconic FF-style enemy in a Kingdom Hearts game. Not exactly for the first time, but it is still cool to see it. I like the presentation of the Heartless Iron Giant, especially since if you look at it, it kind of looks like... hang on. It kind of looks like it's actually multiple Heartless mashed together. We've got the one for the head, we've got the one for the axe. Shrug. Looks cool. Moving on. And of course, we see in the lower left there, we've got those command-style things. I've kind of already pointed those out in previous trailer analyses, so all I'm just going to mention is I love the visual presentation of the cooldowns. You know, we see 19.2 seconds left on doing another Firaza, and 20.2 seconds on doing another counter shield there, para exemple. Also, as we'll see in a minute, we'll finally be able to have 5-man parties. We'll see how significant that is. Now, this part, I gushed so much last night over this, so forgive me if I gush again. This apparently, and I do have to add that word because this is third-party information, but apparently Pixar was actually involved in working on this part, and it shows. This is in the game, I want to remind you. Now, this is the Unreal Engine, the latest Unreal Engine, and it's a damn good engine, but I want you to notice little things like the stitching on that soccer ball, or the dirt smudges on it. Do you see that? Or the Coke can in the background, or the poster in the background, or the drawings of Woody and Buzz up there. There's an enormous, inundated. It is inundated with detail, which is very Pixar. And of course, we're going to flip around here. I mean, I could just pause at every frame and just showcase detail of this. But probably my favorite example of detail is actually right here. It's the smudge on the wood. It's the little dirt stains on the wood frame for the bed there. Do you see them? Right above Donald's head, there's actually one also. There's like a nick in the wood right on the far left there. Do you see that? Look at that. I hope they get Tim Allen and Tom Hanks. I really do. We'll see how much weight Disney is putting behind this when we actually get to it. But anyways, so wonderful attention to detail, and I might gush about the detail more. As I've said many, many times, detail is what really makes things great. However, this obviously looks awesome, even ignoring the details. Apparently, and this is funny because I kind of predicted this, these 3 things you're seeing right now, Donald, Sora, and Goofy, are actually going to be toys that look like this. This is going to be they're going to be a physical version of the toys you're seeing on screen here. And I imagine a lot of people are going to be trying to buy those. They're wonderfully articulated, too, given the fact that they're basically advanced Legos. The Lego Heartless, of course, look awesome. I love the detail on that soccer ball. You also get a sense of scale here, because you can literally see the party there up alongside several different things. And of course, as someone pointed out last night, if you have the camera zoomed down this far, you actually really get to appreciate that detail that I mentioned before. So, yeah, there's those guys. You're Andy's new toys? Toys? He sure did a number on those masked intruders. Well, those are the Heartless. The bad guys! Have they been a problem around here? Nope, they just showed up recently. In fact, those Heartless materialized right after all our friends vanished. Pause for a moment. Wouldn't it be horrible if those were their friends? Unpause. Have you got any clues we can go on? Any other strange things that happened? By the way, this is a video game, I remind you. Think about that for a moment. I mean, I am sorry. I am blown away by how much this actually looks like Toy Story. Moving on. Well, there's one thing. One big thing. Huge, sir. What thing? After Andy and the others went MIA, you notice that means Andy is missing, by the way. The intruders didn't come alone. They arrived with a guy wearing a hood, dressed in black, just like you are. A black hood? But that would mean... Organization 13.2, technically. You know who it is? We have a hunch what's causing the weirdness around here. Would you mind if we handled this? Sorry, we're not going to leave this to you. Huh? If that guy had something to do with our friends vanishing, he's our problem, too. Sorry, I can't do Tom Hanks. We gotta work together. So, where can we find him? Now, this is kind of neat. Any word from the recon team? The latest reports place him in town, sir. Galaxy Toys. I'm just pausing it here to emphasize, again, the attention to detail. First of all, there's a ticket there for seeing a Buzz Lightyear movie. That's kind of neat. But Little League practice, drawings up in the upper right, all that fun stuff. But if you actually look at all the stuff on the Galaxy Toys advert there, everything that is there, and I have gone back and checked, is also in the upcoming section. So, then we get to see some frickin' gameplay. This is awesome! Look at this! I'm sorry, I know I already gushed about this last night. Just, this, I'm blown away by this. This looks absolutely gorgeous. I know the Unreal Engine is amazing, but this is mind-blowing right here. This is absolutely gorgeous. The grass sways when you walk through it, as I showed last night. Of course, we get Hyper Hammer and Drill Punch. Gotta have more drills. See, Drill Punch. And we get that for X period of time. Looks very BBS in terms of its system, or in terms of the way it works. The flowers. There's a mailbox in the background here that has mail that needs to be collected. I'm serious. I can show it. If the camera pans that way, I don't actually know if it will again. It was earlier when I saw it. Yeah, right there. You see that? It's probably really faint, but the second mailbox back on this side of the street has the little red tag up, and for those of you who don't live in the States, that means there's mail to be collected in this mailbox. It just, the level of attention to detail is mind-boggling. Anyways, gameplay, as ever, looks fun, and it looks like we're being given quite a few command-style options, which pretty much is straight up from Birth by Sleep, and since Birth by Sleep is actually my favorite gameplay-wise game of the series, I'm totally cool about that. So, yeah, by the way, we're getting mechas. There are 3 forms of mechas. This is the power form, which has tackle as a major ability, as you can see in the lower left there. That's red. We get blue, which is S for speed. This one gets exploder. Ba-boom. And then we attack a heartless mecha really quick. Actually, I don't think that's a heartless mecha, because that's not the heartless symbol. I have no idea what that symbol is. It might just be a symbol. Anyways, then we get the magic one, which is the one with the cannon. Pay attention to the display in the background. You see that display? It actually gets knocked over by the guy being knocked into it, because physics, Unreal Engine. Yes, Unreal Engine. I'm saying the right engine. I kept mistaking it for the Unity engine. They both start with U. What do you want from me? Another quiet little note I just want to point out. This is probably the level of geek that I rise to, so go ahead and make fun of me if you wish. But, so we have a pretty good shot here to determine scale. Obviously all the toys are not super large. I mean, duh, right? And we are not super large. But, no, it'll do it in a second. I'm hesitant to fast forward because it jumps forward like 10 seconds every time it does it. But in just a moment... I swear it'll be there. There we go. We see the checkout stand. Actually, we get a better shot right there. So there's the checkout stand. We can actually see stomach high platforms, the little demarking fence thing they got there, and of course registers. Now the reason that's relevant is that gives us a height significance, so we now know how high that is. So if we go straight out from that to the middle platforms, we can see those are probably about stomach to chest high, probably about 4 or 5 feet tall, which means these mechas are about 3 or 4 feet tall, which means they're huge toys. I'm not saying that's unrealistic, by the way. Actually, I've seen real toys like that in real life, but it gives you a sense of the scale, and I love how that just helps flesh out what would otherwise be a very small room into this giant arena. Now, of course, because people in chat are pointing it out, and because I didn't point it out, as I mentioned earlier during the Olympus section, as you can see, we actually have a 5-man party here with Woody, Buzz, Donald, Goofy, and Sora. One point of note, and I don't know if this is something that's going to be changed in the future, notice the ratio of their health to mana. If you notice, on all 4 characters that are not Sora, it's the same. They all have the same amount of mana, and they all have the same amount of health, and it's all demarcated in the same way. I don't know if that's deliberate. I don't know if that's something that's going to be significant in the future. That might just be a percentage bar rather than a literal amount. And, I mean, that would make a degree of sense if they went that route with it. I just thought I'd point it out. We also don't know if these characters are going to be significant. So I use the term guardians and pets. The term pets means something you could control to some extent or another. FF12 has a good idea, has a good example of what I mean by pets in terms of a gameplay mechanic. You know, you can control those other party members either literally or through gambits. By contrast, guardians is closer to what we had in Kingdom Hearts 2, which is you don't really have any control over them, they just kind of react to the situation and to you, right? Now, I'm hoping we have a pet situation, but the odds are actually kind of low. But it would be really awesome if we could actually have more control over our party members and actually make them significant this time around, instead of making it so that they're just kind of there to make noises during the combat, which is kind of what it was in Kingdom Hearts 2. And yeah, if I had to put my chips down, which are actually in here, If I had to put my chips down, I would put it down on the fact that these are actually guardians, not pets. But it is nice to dream, and it would be cool. One other thing I want to point out, this is kind of a logical step forward, and in fact, if I am not mistaken, was something that was going to be in Kingdom Hearts 2, and hardware issues got in the way of. One of the flaws in the old Kingdom Hearts games, at least from the perspective of some of the developers, was the fact that when you went to a new world, who you'd bring with you was always a question. Some players would bring, Peter Pan or Auron because they're awesome, but then you lose the character that you've been specifically grooming and leveling the entire game, like Donald or Goofy, right? And there are some players who would always bring Donald or Goofy because of the fact that they had specifically leveled them and put items on them and put abilities on them in order to support the team. You don't have to make that choice anymore, because now you can have Sora Donald and Goofy, who you've been leveling and doing whatever with, as well as the guest characters at the same time. Now, as Luxia, points out, they were actually going to have Toy Story Tough all the way back in Kingdom Hearts 2. From what I understand, Nomura is actually very excited to finally get it back in. For those of you not aware, Nomura is quite a bit of a movie geek. He's a geekophile, or a movieophile, excuse me. Not a geekophile, that's even weird. So, either way, it is awesome to see how they're doing this with this. One other thing I want to point out, though, another possibility here that they could go with is they could make it so that these guys function as basically additional cannons. I know that sounds weird the way I'm saying that, but think of it this way. Anybody out there play a demonology warlock in World of Warcraft? Because I'll just explain what I mean by that. In World of Warcraft, as a demonology warlock, you summon all sorts of pets, like literally about 12 at a time, and you just swarm something with them, right? The point is, functionally, gameplay-wise, those are basically just additional sources of damage to whatever it is you're hitting. Now, that's still kind of the Guardian mentality, but I kind of feel like that could be where they're going with this, just having another source of trying to bring down whatever it is you're fighting. And you can just watch the UI here for a bit if you'd like to. It's some good stuff. I'm not sure what the bar is on the left here, or if it's significant at all. We do see the HP bar here. Obviously, for the sake of this trailer, they're literally just showing off the 3 mechas. Why wouldn't they? I mean, that's what I would do if I was setting up this trailer. I don't think I've really missed anything in the gameplay section, so we're just going to let this play out. There's a second story up there, by the way, which also has tons of stuff up there, including a roller coaster. So now we see someone who should not be here. This is young Xehanort, at least in form, if not in reality. Let's talk about that before we talk about anything else, because this is the most important thing about this trailer. Young Xehanort should not be here, okay? Let's just lay that out. Dream Drop Distance was extremely clear about its time travel rules and actually adhered to them fully. Basically, think about it as the closed loop. Once you sufficiently go to a point where you have closed the loop's over. There's no more time travel within that loop. And Dream Drop Distance closed the loop. So young Xehanort and Xemnas and Ansem the Seeker of Darkness are all caught within that closed loop and have been pulled back, and ergo, all 3 of these characters shouldn't actually be able to go forward into Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, there are 3 ways around this, and we've discussed all these last night, so I'm going to bring them up right now. First and foremost, this is the most obvious answer, and it's actually kind of the cop-out answer, in my honest opinion. This could be a data version of these characters, because we know for 100% fact, thanks to God, I suddenly can't think of the name of it, Recoded. We know thanks to Recoded that a data individual can, through experience and time and exposure to other people's hearts, develop a heart of their own and effectively gain sentience and sapience. So this could literally be Data young Xehanort, and he could have just been pulled out of the Dataverse into the real world, which is also something we know can happen. Second option is pretty much the exact same thing with more magic and less technology, because we know that there is a book that can project what is effectively a holodeck, even though it's not literally a technology thing, it's just a magical holodeck, which can do the exact same thing I just said. So this could be a data projection or a phantom projection. Now, I like the third option best. Unfortunately, having thought about it overnight, I think the third option is the least likely. This is not the song I want right now. There we go. That's a good song. We'll leave this song playing. So, the third option, which, again, I want to stress, in my opinion, is the least likely, is that... Let me rewind for a second. For those of you not aware, Leonard Nimoy and the Japanese gentleman who voice Master Xehanort, both of these gentlemen have died in real life. And in both cases, it's horrible. They were both excellent voice actors, prolific voice actors, and the world is worse with them gone. This leaves a huge problem when the main villain of your entire series, which is known as the Xehanort Saga, no longer has its iconic voice actor. Now, from a meta perspective, from a real-life perspective, there's only a few ways you can deal with this. You can recast the voice, which is always going to cause issues, and in some circles would be considered disrespectful, especially Japanese circles, since respect for that kind of a thing is kind of a big deal within their culture. So you can recast it. That is an option. Second option is to try and work your way to so that the villain is just less significant and basically doesn't really have a role, so that, you know, Master Xehanort suddenly doesn't become the focus of the Xehanort Saga. You know, in other words, having Xemnas and the Seeker of Darkness both talking, and have Master Xehanort just sitting in the background on his throne, not saying anything all of a sudden. Again, you could kind of see how that would feel cheap. Third option, now this one's clever, and this one only works in certain settings. The third option is to change the character's appearance or body or presentation so that they are the same character. It's still Master Xehanort. It just is in a different body. In other words, I mean, we've heard, I suddenly can't think of his name, we've heard Bob play Master Xehanort when he is in Terra's body. We've seen that several times before. Now, that is the same character. That is Master Xehanort, but different body, so different voice actor. What we could literally be seeing here is they might take Master Xehanort and either have him find a new body or find some way to reduce his age or something, so that rather than Master Xehanort being presented as this old, decrepit guy who is on the verge of death, being this younger form who is now the presentation of Master Xehanort throughout the story. And, as Max Time pointed out, and as several people have pointed out yesterday, this is something that was always Master Xehanort's plan. That's why he wanted Terra's body as a host body back in Birth by Sleep. He wanted a body young and strong enough in order to be able to endure the Keyblade War. So this makes a lot of sense. It fits the pieces quite perfectly, actually. And yeah, it's the Doctor Who effect. That's pretty much exactly right, Leander. It's still the Doctor. It's been the Doctor this whole time, but different actors. Here's the catch. The only reason I find this to be the least likely of the three options is because we've already seen Xemnas and the Seeker of Darkness in a previous trailer. Now, if Master Xehanort is finding a new body is not necessarily contrasting that, but the only way for those two to be in is for them to break their time travel rules, which would piss me off, or for the data copy idea, which I mentioned earlier, or the phantom copy idea. And the fact that it's one of those three things means that it becomes less likely for this to actually be the third option that I just mentioned. Now hang on, let's get something nice and ominous music-wise. Hang on a second. Where is it? Oh, it's not going to be here, is it? We'll do this. No, wrong one. There it is. Yeah, I know, right, Mandarton? So, I'm going to go ahead and let this play, and I'm going to voice act what he's about to say. One heart's shadow fills the emptiness of another. See how they bring him to life? Like Heartless and Nobodies, they fit together. Yeah, great, but why are you doing this? There is a darkness we are missing and must reclaim. The way hearts connect in this world can provide a clue. Kingdom 3! Oh yeah, by the way, and the big news, it's coming out next year, which could mean, pretty much at the outside, 1 year and 5 months from now. So, between now and 1 year and 5 months from now. Now, But what I really want to talk about is his lines here. There's two things you can draw from this. First of all, we don't actually know the him they're referring to here, but it sounds pretty likely to me that they're either referring to how Buzz and Woody interact with each other, or how Andy and the toys interact with each other. Second point of relevance, this line right here is significant because in virtually every Kingdom Hearts before this, the Disney worlds haven't actually mattered. I mean, some of them have. But for the most part, the Disney worlds are effectively, let's go quest for a bit. We'll get some character moments here and there, but it doesn't actually matter to the plot in almost every Kingdom Hearts game. The idea here is that, theoretically, this means at the very least the Toy Story world actually matters for the main plot of Kingdom Hearts 3. Hence the idea that Organization 13-2 is here specifically to try and figure out what's going on with the Hearts connection in this world and how it can lead them towards what they're going for, which of course is the final point I was going to bring up, which is this. There's a darkness we were missing and must reclaim. Now, what I find interesting about this point here is that everyone I've talked to has automatically assumed that this means that they are looking for their 13th darkness. Now, I've already given my own theories on that, and I'm not going to go further into that. But I find that interesting because that's actually not what I was thinking about this at all. I was thinking that this is more about what someone in chat, who just said it? I think the chat's already scrolled by it. Anyways, the idea that the darkness and the light and the nobody are actually starting to remerge, and we're starting to see things kind of be... Oh, there it is. Noel said it. And we're seeing things kind of go... Now, the toys getting hearts makes perfect sense. I mean, that makes 100% perfect sense. Toy Story fits so perfectly with the Kingdom Hearts setting, it's actually kind of weird. It makes sense why they would have wanted Toy Story back in the previous Kingdom Hearts. Because toys would effectively start as nobodies, and, thanks to Droid Effect, would slowly grow hearts just like nobodies did. Just like nobodies do, for that matter. So all of this, again, lines up pretty well, but we don't really know what the darkness that he's referencing here is. Any other thoughts, other than it being, the darkness in general, or the more specific 13th darkness? Yes, Star Wars continues to fit with Kingdom Hearts. By the way, hi, Chief Entropist. He could have just ripped out a younger version of himself. I don't understand that question, Zend. What do you mean? Yeah, we still don't know what's going on with the chest, honestly. We really don't know what's going on with the chest. There's been surprisingly little information on what's going on with the chest. One of these days we might figure it out, but right now it's pure speculation. We know that it's important, and we know that Maleficent and Pete are seeking it, and that's it. And that's all. "2018, ladies and gentlemen. What, the real young Xehanort? I should say, the growing up young Xehanort? Oh, Wimbledon's over. Hang on, let's see if it's been announced. That would be awesome, Shadow Machine. I mean, if you think about it, droids by themselves fit the nobody model quite well. Oh, you're watching live, sorry. Ah, well, if they adhere to their current rules of time travel scene, no, he could not do that. So. Ah! Alright, I'm actually going to leave this live for a little bit. We'll go ahead and see who the 13th Doctor is live. And then we'll discuss Spider-Man, which is what we're actually supposed to be discussing right now. We'll just chill here for a minute. Okay, let's change music. Nice and peaceful. We're waiting. Waiting with infinite patience. We have so much patience. Why don't I pull up, like, an appropriate background for Doctor Who here? There we go. This seems like an appropriate Doctor Who background. Nobody cares about... I'm sure some people care about Wimbledon. And yeah, I've noticed, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's noticed, that Sora has been showcasing quite a few abilities from previous Kingdom Hearts games, and in fact, abilities and attack styles from other people. Which really goes far to that whole, you know, Sora is literally going to start using his friends as his power henceforth. You know, I would like this background a lot more if it would loop. You'll see what I mean in about 10 seconds. I would Sceed, but then I'd be copywronged into oblivion. Boop. Yeah, doesn't actually loop. Cool background, but not really useful. I don't remember Sceed. I know what it sounds like, and I could replicate it in my head. It was like a heavy rock. Not heavy metal, heavy rock version of it. It was quite good. Yeah, I talked about that earlier, Luxia. Hurry up. Yes, someone won Wimbledon. Nobody cares. I'm kidding. I know people care. Might have been 11's. I don't know. Might have been Sylvester's. Again, I don't actually remember. Well, that would make sense to me, Noel. Oh, I just realized you guys can't see chat right now because I've got this way up in the front. There we go. Much better. I would, but then I'd get copy wrong, Darkrai. There we go. We'll just sit with this one for a second. Damn it, come on, announce the guy so I can switch to the Spider-Man Homecoming discussion. Alright, screw it. Let's talk about Spider-Man. Here, let me stop the recording. So for those of you watching us on Loreweek,